Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly Podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Hey, this week we have a lot to share with you, including a water softener. What's involved in that, and where's the best location in your home? Also, did you know that you could heat your swimming pool or your hot tub by using your air conditioning system? Well, you might be surprised at how inexpensive and how easy that is to implement into your house. Also, recycling. We love to recycle things, but what about patio stones? Those stones that are there, can you make them look better, and can you reuse them? I guarantee you we'll share some good information with you on that. Also, drilling through porcelain. That can be a little intimidating. We've got the trick for you there. And also, those pesky little moles that are out in the yard. Can you really get rid of them? We can tell you how. What about a simple solution, Joe?
Well, this simple solution is how to use paint thinner a second time. If you're using paint thinners to clean your paint brushes and then just dumping it out, you're being very wasteful. And this simple solution will show you how you can reuse it to stretch out that can of paint thinner.
Boy, that sounds great. Anybody would be interested in that. Hey, we got a lot to do here, so let's get started. Let's head over to Michigan. Laurie's on the phone with us right now. Laurie, welcome to the show.
Well, hello there. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. We're anxious to hear about your granny pad.
Well, I had a question on that. If I were to be building a house with a full basement and my plumbing and everything was downstairs, would I be able to put my water softener with the brine tank upstairs on the first floor, maybe like in a closet, so I don't have to lug those big heavy bags of salt down into the basement?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I'll tell you what, my buddy Joe can certainly answer that. He's done a lot with writing about water softeners and so forth. Joe, have you had a question like this before?
I have not. And Laurie, that's an interesting question. I know I had one installed about, I guess it's going on 2 years now, and it's in our basement, and it's in our basement because the water comes in right there, as it does in most homes, in the basement or in the crawl space or, by the utility closet, out in the garage, depending on where you are. So you have a basement, so the water's probably entering, whether you have a city water or well water, and that's usually where the water softener gets connected so that all the water that goes into the house, all the domestic water for cooking and cleaning and showering is all being softened. So I'm not sure how it would even get hooked up upstairs in an attic. And plus, it usually takes up a bit of space.
Oh, no. It's actually not upstairs in an attic. It would just be right like above it on the first floor. It
would be on the first floor?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And the basement's directly below it?
Correct.
Below that room, there's not that part of the house isn't on a slab or anything like that. Well, a plumber might be able to, depending. Do you know how close you are to where the water's entering the house? Would that happen to be close to that room?
Yeah, it could be. It's still all in the planning stages, so
right.
that's why I was thinking I could maybe put it directly up above from where the water comes in on the first floor. Okay,
yeah, I was thinking it was up like on the second floor above that. Okay, so on the first floor, with directly above the basement, you might be able to do that. They might be able to plumb that. Now you still have to discharge the water. The tank cleans itself. It automatically discharges, depending on how much water you use. And that would have to go into a dry well or into a drain or outdoors, depending on what your town allows. So I think you might be able to do this. You have to call a plumber, of course, and have him take a look at it. Because, if the piping is 2 feet long or 20 feet long, I don't know if it's really going to matter.
Right. Yeah. And I wasn't sure with, stuff going up and then, having to go back down or how that all works with gravity or whatever.
And it's going to take quite a bit of space, too, of course, because you have the brine tank, but then you also have the recharge where the beads are that the water runs through. So, the tank with all the salt takes up quite a bit of space, but as long as you have the room, But I know what you mean. Those bags, I buy them at Costco, and I think they reduce them to 40 pounds from 50 pounds, but they're still pretty heavy.
Sure. Yep. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Saved me a lot of things to think about.
Sure.
So.
And you'll probably go through about one bag a month, depending on, we have just 2 people living in our home. We go through about a 40-pound bag every 5 weeks or so.
Sure. Yeah. So that's something to think about too. If I stock up and get them down there one time only, and they're down there for a while. So.
There you go.
Right, well, good luck, Laurie.
Good, Laurie. Sounds like a great project. Certainly a better quality of water that you'll get. And thanks for being with us here on the Today's Homeowner Radio Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Hey, let's go to Florida right now. John is on the line with us. John, welcome to the Today's Homeowner Radio Show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us about the situation with your air conditioners.
Well, we live right by the beach, and our air conditioners, we bought the house 3 years ago, but the air conditioners are about 10 years old, and I know that they're starting to wear, and I want to get ahead of it and start talking to companies about getting new ones in. And I wanted to know, I have 2 questions. One, I wanted to know, is there a particular brand, a train, a carrier, something that is better when you're close to the ocean because of the seawater? That's number one. And number 2, I've heard that you can put something on an air conditioning unit, a return of some kind, to heat a pool and or a jacuzzi.
Okay. Not sure on the heater return on that. I think there is some type of, kind of a unit that goes attached to that, but it's more to it than that because the heat that's required to heat a pool is pretty significant. I know the heater I have for my hot tub is 100,000 BTUs. So it's a pretty strong system in that. And the idea of a particular brand being better than another one for exposure to salt water, that's a good question. Any thoughts on that, Joe? Because I know the better you hear some of the more quality-oriented brands do talk about that they're extra coated and that they will, live up or be able to survive better in those kind of situations. But have you ever heard of one on that, Joe?
Yeah, John, I'm not sure. I know that Consumer Reports ran a story recently where Trane was the best quality central air conditioning unit. Lennox had the best efficiency, and Carrier was rated the highest for reliability. Now, I think they're talking about in a situation not right on the ocean. So, but I would check with each of those 3 manufacturers. Those are the 3 largest manufacturers. So I would check with them and say, I have a unit right near the ocean, is there a unit that has more stainless steel parts, perhaps, something like that? So that's about all I could offer.
Well, that's great information. Thank you. I will.
You're welcome.
Will call those companies. I appreciate your help.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention, you can use an air conditioner to heat your pool water. Not many people are aware of this, and it's a little expensive because it requires a technician to come out. But they make it's basically an air conditioning heat exchanger, and it's often called a heat recovery water heater or a heat reclamation pool heater. And it's hard to explain what it is, but it's a small unit that gets attached right by your pool pump. And the refrigerant lines from your air conditioner, this works really well when your central air conditioning unit happens to be close to where your pool unit is. But in any case, the refrigerant lines from the air conditioner, the central air conditioning unit, are connected to this little unit. It's a round cylindrical unit. It's probably about 1.5 feet, 2 feet high, and they run the refrigerant lines through that, and the heat that usually is just vented out to the outdoors goes through the pool water as the pool water goes through this unit as well. That's a very simplistic explanation of how it works. But yes, you can heat your water, and the best thing is you don't pay any more for cooling your home. It has no effect on that, and the cost to heat your pool water is absolutely free. Because this ordinarily is heat that's just being expelled to the air.
That's a great idea. But if we were to go then for a separate heater to do a jacuzzi and or a pool, I'd be looking in the 100,000 BTU area. Correct?
Yes, you'd want to verify that, but it's that's what I have in mind. It works very, very well, and some are more efficient than others. But they, traditionally are pretty expensive to do that, especially with gas. I don't even know if they have one with electric, but with gas, it can really run that bill up quickly.
Yeah, I bet it can. All right. I do appreciate your help. Thank you.
Hey, our pleasure, John. Thanks so much for being with us. 800-946-4420 is the Today's Homeowner hotline. And on the hotline right now is Christine from Michigan. Welcome to the show, Christine.
Thank you. So great to talk to you, Danny and Joe. I enjoy watching your shows over the years, and thanks for taking this call.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. We want to help you out. Well, tell us about the patio. I understand it's very special to you.
Okay. Well, it is. I'm really interested in renovating this simple 12 by 12 patio that my dad installed decades ago, probably in the 80s. He used simple 24 by 24 tiles that he probably bought at a local garden center. They were a dark charcoal in color back then. The patios really served its purpose all these years, but over the last few years definitely has shown where tiles are sinking in spots and the weeds keep coming up through the cracks. I'd like to take a shot at repurposing the old tiles if I can. Overall, they seem to be in fairly good shape. No major cracks or gouges that I can see. I'm not sure if power washing, painting, or staining, or even seeing if perhaps the underside would be in better shape to perhaps flip them and serve as a surface. Not sure if I should attempt this, or if so, what's the best way to take a shot at this, or should I just forget it and just get poured concrete? So I'm looking to you for some advice.
Well, I can certainly tell you what we did on a project about a year ago, and really turned out well. And it was a very similar scenario. I think these were 16 by 16 patio stones that we were working with. They were dirty and ugly and so forth, and just had dirt kind of ground right down into the pores of it. And we weren't really sure we could make anything out of them. But here's what we did: we took the stones, took them because some of them were settling a little bit, so we took them all off to the side and pressure washed every single one of them to get them nice and clean. Then we actually put a coat of concrete stain on them to get them more consistent. And then when we reused them, we kind of used it in a pattern mixed with new 16 by 16 pieces, and kind of did a little pattern so that we could expand the size of it. So we were able to utilize every single one of them. And then the other, and it just kind of looked very intentional. And I'll tell you what, you can see the entire process because we did one of our television episodes on that. And if you'll go to todayshomeowner.com and in the search engine there, put in recycled patio, and you'll be able to see the show step by step exactly how we did it. And I think it really turned out well. It doesn't, I mean, it all looks intentional and a nice pattern. And then, of course, we put a little grass and a little bit of some shrubbery around it. And the homeowners absolutely love it. And they saved a lot of money in the process.
Okay. My thing, if you, it does have a concrete border around the current size. So I don't really have room unless I delete that to expand it further, introducing new. I don't know if you, I think I uploaded a photo, perhaps if you could take a look at that. There's a little bit of a border there. Should I just work within that? I mean, would it depend on really how well the tiles are looking once I do the pressure washing and staining?
Yeah, I think if you do the pressure washing and staining, you'll be very pleased with it. I mean, it definitely will improve it drastically. And I did take a look at the pictures. And if you don't want it any larger, then just work with what you have and don't remove any of them. Just leave them down like that. But if you wanted it a little larger, then you may have to remove part of that concrete curbing in order to expand it out. And you might even try, another one we did similar to that is we just used something completely different for a border. And so it just enlarged it just a little bit, kind of gave it a nice definition. And that was another one that turned out really nice.
Okay. I will definitely try that. The only other thing, too, I don't think that there was a proper base put in when my dad installed it. One time we did lift the tile, and I just saw basically dirt and sand with, nothing beyond that. From watching your show, I see that it is very important to put a proper base under that too. So
if it's not settling after all of these years and still remains pretty flat, then I wouldn't worry about that. But using the polymeric sand that you can put on top of it and then just sweep it in to where it settles down around that will help it. Will help stabilize it even more.
Wonderful, great. All right, I really appreciate your information on this.
Our pleasure, Christine. Let us know if we can help you any other way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. What a great call there, Joe. And
Yes.
you know, when you see those pictures, it's just dirty. I mean, you know, it's just and
Right. I saw the photos, right.
and also, you know, with concrete or pavers or anything, if they're not sealed a little bit with masonry sealer, boy, everything's going to get down in the pores of that concrete.
Especially, Christine said her dad built this like almost 40 years ago. So you
Right,
can just
right.
imagine. And in Michigan, being exposed to all four seasons. Yeah, and I think, you know, in the worst case scenario, she could pull up all of these tiles. She called them tiles. They're like patio stones, 2-foot square concrete patio stones. Re-level out and screed out the base, put in some crushed stone, get it where it should be, and then power wash the stones before she puts them back. I
Right,
would lean
right.
them up, and it's always better to power wash something like that in a vertical situation, you know, so the water all runs right off. Be a lot of work to move those, but I
Yeah,
think
oh,
it'd
yeah.
be like a brand new patio when she was done.
Time for our Home Depot Best New Product segment, How Doers Get More Done. Now, by now, most homeowners know about LED light bulbs and how they offer the most energy-efficient, longest-lasting options for most household fixtures. Unfortunately, many of them look a little too high-tech for traditional light fixtures where the bulb is exposed. Well, that's where the EcoSmart Antique Edison LED bulb can be a great solution. The bulb is clear glass rather than plastic, and the vintage shape makes it a stylish replacement for traditional bulbs with all the benefits of LED technology. Now, that means you get the same light output with 90% less energy usage and as much as, listen to this, 15,000 hours of life.
Wow.
And this model is also dimmable, so you can work with any fixture or lamp that you might have in your home, all while looking really cool. So for more information on this EcoSmart ST19 Antique Edison Clear Glass LED light bulb, log on to homedepot.com. We recently just installed a lot of cafe lights at the
Right.
big pocket park that we built down in my hometown recently, and actually over 500 feet of bulbs and everything
Right.
that we put
Wow.
up, and had the exposed bulbs just like we're talking about here. Really cool. It looked
Yeah.
really, really nice.
You often see them in pendant lights too, like people might put over a peninsula or a kitchen island where they use those clear, what are now called Edison bulbs. I wonder if Thomas Edison could have ever imagined, you know, a century later, people are still using his name to sell light bulbs.
No, I doubt that. Right now, let's go to Pennsylvania. Alan is on the line. Alan, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Danny, and hello to you and also Joe.
Oh, thank you.
We appreciate you being with us, and see if we can help you out on this. You're about to tackle a little work with some porcelain tile. Tell us about it.
Well, we had we totally redid this house when we moved in, and we bought it in 2014. Took us a couple of years to pretty much gut do the whole thing, and I missed putting a hole in the kitchen floor so that we could run some power up to the island. And the wife uses the mixer a lot, and she'd really like to have power over there. But now, of course, you know, the island's sitting there, and underneath that is porcelain tile. And I attempted to drill some before it because the same stuff is in the bathroom. And, well, I wore out a couple of bits that were supposed to go through there, and I was only trying to do small screws to hold the, registers in place. So I was hoping you guys had some better way because I need a bigger hole to get, some Romex up through there.
Yeah, it can be challenging, and you definitely don't want to end up with a broken piece of tile. Well, I'll tell you, you've certainly called the right place here because Joe has extensive experience in all things to do with ceramic and porcelain. And Joe, what do you think there? Because we're talking about a pretty sizable hole if you're trying to run a piece of Romex up through there. What would you recommend to Alan on this?
Yeah, probably a 5/8 inch diameter hole at least. Alan, so this is. You want to drill a hole to get power up to an island. So is this hole going to be hidden from view? It's underneath the island, right? It's not outside the island.
No, it'll be inside the island. What I was
Right.
guessing was make a slight, bigger hole, maybe a 2-inch hole through the bottom of the cabinet,
Right.
and then be able to, go from there.
Yeah, okay, that's great. The reason I ask is because, if you mess up the hole a little bit, who cares? You're never going to see it. And you said your wife likes using the mixer on the island. Well, code requires all islands to have electricity. They all have to have an outlet. And the reason is that they know that if you don't put one, someone's going to plug in a mixer with an extension cord across the room and stretch it to the island. And of course, someone's going to walk by and trip over it or yank the mixer off the island. So that's the reason every island, according to the National Electrical Code, has to have an outlet, at least one outlet. But getting back to drilling the hole through porcelain tile, they make a diamond tip drill bit specifically for that. They look like a little hole saw. Do you know what a hole saw looks like, Alan?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
well, it looks like that.
Set.
Oh, great. Well, it looks like that. It's smaller diameter and a little longer, but instead of having teeth, the cutting edge, the bottom cutting edge of this bit is got diamond grits welded on somehow. And there's also ones that have carbide grit, but the diamond ones are the best. And they cut a really clean hole. In your case, it doesn't much matter because the hole is going to be hidden. So you could use one of these. You can use a standard masonry bit, and again, since it's not going to be seen, what I would do is the hole is going to be hidden. Is you can take a nail punch and strike it, a nail set rather, and strike it just to chip the surface, and that'll get the bit started. What you can do is drill a series of small diameter holes, maybe 1 inch in diameter, then chip out the tile within that circle of holes. This way you don't have to go out and buy another bit. I assume you probably have a masonry bit, a small 1/4 inch masonry bit, something like that. That would drill through it, especially if you have a hammer drill.
I do have a hammer drill, yeah.
Well, there you go. Now, sometimes I don't recommend using a hammer drill on a hole that you might see because that concussive force can sometimes crack the tile. But in this case, if it cracks it a little bit, you're never going to see it because it's underneath the island.
You don't think it'll crack out, a big long crack that might end up outside the island?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, that's great because I know I tried the carbide stuff when I tried to do those bathroom holes, and those are the bits I kind of burn up.
Yes. Well, the diamond bit, I think they're just called diamond tipped drill bits. And again, they call them drill bits, but they look like little hole saws. That would be the absolute best one to use.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That helps a lot.
Oh, you're welcome.
Good, Alan. Well, best of luck on that. If we can help you any other way, you know what to do. Give us a call.
I'll do that. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Have
welcome.
a great weekend.
As we said earlier, Danny, if you have the right tool, you can drill a hole in almost anything.
Yeah, another great tip that we share from time to time is when you are drilling, especially on a vertical surface, and some of the glazed tile we've seen people, when they're in working in a shower trying to hang something. Boy, that drill bit will skate all around. You just can't get that thing to sit still. But I remember us discussing taking a simple piece of masking tape and putting it there, and that will hold it long enough to seat into that. I think that works really, really well. One thing we want to remind you about, we always try to, put some things in for you to think about. Really need to think about carbon monoxide detectors. If you don't have one or not sure if yours works, let me tell you, they're very, very inexpensive. And every year during this time of the year, you hear some really bad stories there where people have gone to a hotel or they've gone to a celebration and had a very close call. In some situations, it's very tragic. So really encourage you to get that carbon monoxide detector. Joe, I remember a few weeks ago you were talking about you actually bought like a 4-pack of them that just plugged into the outlets. Yeah,
I was going to buy one for one particular part of the house, and I saw it was relatively expensive to buy one, and then I saw you can buy a 4-pack, and which brought the price way down. And yeah, there are several ways you can get carbon monoxide detectors. Sometimes they're built into smoke detectors, and they detect both smoke and carbon monoxide, and that's fine, except the gas is heavier than air and it settles. So it starts building up at the floor. So that's why they usually suggest getting one of these plug-in ones. You just plug it right into a wall outlet, and of course it's close to the floor. And you should have at least one on every level. I have 4, so I have 2 on the first level, 2 on the second level. And because you'd rather be safe than sorry. And they have these batteries now that I think they last 10 years.
Right. So to go ahead and, it's not one of those things maybe you keep on your mind, but why don't you write a little note the next time you can at the home center, or as Joe did, just order it online. Go ahead and get those plugged in. You got to keep your family safe, and you never know when some gas appliance in your home is not working properly. We certainly appreciate everybody taking the time to pick up the phone and give us a call. And we get a lot of recorded calls. We get a lot of really wonderful people that are just have a little question that they need answered. And we're going to try to help one right now. This is Daryl from Kentucky.
Yes, this is Daryl Woosley. Live in Bardstown, Kentucky. listen to your show and really like it. I make a special point to be out here on Sunday in the garage. I build hot rods. I have a mole problem in the front yard. I'm wanting to know which way is the best way to get rid of a mole problem.
All right. Well, we get this from time to time, and I'll tell you one thing that we found that does not work, that we've gotten a lot of calls, is those ultrasonic mole repellent kind of a thing.
No.
That's that's kind of like a snake oil there. That's not doesn't really work very well, does it, Joe?
It's supposed to emit some kind of high-pitched sound. I'm not sure what it's supposed to do. You have them for mice and rats, but I don't think they ever work. The thing is, I don't think they have ever worked. That's the other thing. They're still selling them. So,
I know.
that's
I don't get that.
That's not the way to go. Daryl, usually, there are all kinds of mole traps you can put in their tunnels that kill them, and they're like poisons and things you can put in. But the first step is that why are the moles there? They're not there just to watch you build hot rods, They're there for a reason, and they're usually there to eat grubs. They're grubs that are probably under your grass, and the moles show up just to eat the grubs. So what you need to do is get an herbicide that kills grubs. There's herbicides specifically made for that, and just get a drop spreader or some kind of spreader and just go across your lawn and just put this out there. Sooner or later, it'll kill all the grubs. The moles won't have anything to eat, and they'll move on to your neighbor's yard, I suppose. And I just remembered, Danny. Remember we had answered this question on air, and a listener had emailed us and said that they put what was it? Juicy fruit gum.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
And they opened it up, took it out of the foil packet, and they were slipping little sticks of juicy fruit gum like in the tunnels. They'd dig up the tunnels, and they'd put it, and the moles went away. Now I'm not sure why that worked or if it actually worked. I'm not sure why somebody would tell us if it didn't work. But I guess you could try some juicy fruit gum. Maybe he works for juicy fruit gum. Maybe that's it. And sales are
drive up the stock price a little bit.
But there you go. Get rid of the grubs first, and the moles will probably move on.
And thanks so much for being with us. Always look forward to this part of the show where I'm able to kind of sit back, relax, and let Joe provide us another simple solution. Take it away, Joe.
All right, Danny. Paint thinner, which is also known as mineral spirits, it's the same thing, paint thinner or mineral spirits, is very effective for cleaning oil-based paints and stains from brushes and tools. However, most people dispose of the thinner after just one use, which is not only wasteful, but it's unnecessary, and here's why. Instead of just dumping it out, pour the paint thinner into a jar, soak the brushes as you ordinarily do. Once they're clean, take out the brushes, and then set the thinner aside and wait at least overnight. I usually wait a couple of days. What happens is all the paint or stain solvents that you washed off the brush will settle to the bottom. But if you look closely, the thinner on top is almost completely clear because it's all settled out. And that top portion is perfectly good for cleaning the next paintbrush. So all you do is very carefully pour off the thinner from the top, leave the paint sludge in the bottom, put the lid back on the jar. And now that you've saved that cleaner, that paint thinner that was clean on the top, and you can just put that in a separate jar, put the top on it, and wait for the next time you have to clean a brush. And then eventually that first jar will get full of sludge, and then you have to take it to a hazard waste disposal site or whatever your town recommends. Don't just dump it outside. It's pretty benign, because it doesn't have any solvent left in it, much solvent. It's mostly paint solids, but still you want to be careful how you dispose of it. But I've had a gallon of paint thinner probably for at least 6 or 8 years, and it's still about half full because I've been reusing, the paint thinner instead of just dumping it all out.
Now it's time for our podcast question of the week. Would certainly encourage you to send in your questions. Pretty easy. Just go to todayshomeowner.com/podcast. This one comes in from Anthony, where he asked, I was watching one of your television episodes that you did where you remodeled a bathroom. You put in a new tile floor over the old one and showed how to place a new wood threshold to transition the height difference between the two floors. In the episode, the floors are level. In my house, the bathroom on the second floor is next to the chimney, and the house has settled over the years, and the floor slopes from one side of the door opening to the other with a half-inch height difference. How do you adjust for that? Boy, I know just exactly, what he's talking about
right
in that particular situation. But I'll tell you what I've always done with that is you can always find pieces of oak wood flooring. and then grab the table saw and very carefully just create that transition piece. And in a situation like this where one side is different than the other side, it's a little trickier to do, but you can just create that transition going from one surface to the other, and then put it in place. You can kind of dry fit it, see how it works. And a lot of times I'll just put construction adhesive there and not even do any nailing on it at all, and push it into that construction adhesive, make sure everything's nice and even, and then you can paint it, or even better, if you can stain it to match any of the adjacent floors. But of course, they also have a lot of pre-made strips in vinyl,
right,
wood, and other materials.
Well, the good thing for Anthony is it's only a half inch. Now, we have some antique houses here where I live in Roxbury, Connecticut. They've settled so much, they're off by more than an inch. So only a half inch height difference. It shouldn't cause much of a tripping hazard if he wants to, level up that sill, that threshold, so it's a little thicker on one side than the other. And don't forget, you need about a half inch space at least under the door. Mm-hmm. So, there's not going to be that much of it's not going to be a tripping hazard, and you probably won't even really notice it, because when the door is closed, it'll look like a nice even gap. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, a home will often settle near the chimney because it's not often attached right to the chimney, because you need airspace, in case there's a fire or something like that. So, I think just making it the threshold a little thicker on one side will solve that problem.
Well, best of luck on that, Anthony. I'm sure you'll be able to make that transition work and make it look good and last for a long, long time. Hey, if you've got a question, again, go ahead and send it to us at todayshomeowner.com/podcast. And thanks again for all of the wonderful reviews, and just amazing that almost 600,000 downloads we had last year. And it looks like it's going to be even more this year. That means more people are really interested in the today's homeowner style of home improvement. And for that, we truly appreciate it. I'm Danny Lipford, along with my buddy Joe Truini. Thanks for listening to this Today's Homeowner Podcast.